a biological perspective on social status differences. There is a lot of confusion and sometimes pernicious ideas about inequalities in the social status of men and women. Many participants of these discussions treat humans as tabula rasa, molded entirely by culture only, without taking into account biological reality. Let's delve into well-known evolutionary biology concepts of parental investment theory and sexual selection. These frameworks suggest that differing biological costs associated with reproduction lead to divergent strategies for social status and resource acquisition. The observation that men are overrepresented at both the extreme bottom, homelessness, incarceration, early death, and the extreme top, CEOs, high-level leadership, is often linked to the greater male variability hypothesis. From a biological standpoint, because a male can theoretically father a vast number of children, while a female is limited by the physical constraints of pregnancy and lactation, the payoff for high-risk behavior is evolutionarily higher for males. Throughout evolution, a low-status male might have zero reproductive success. Therefore, biological selective pressures favored males willing to take extreme risks to achieve status. This creates a wider distribution, a flatter bell curve. More men fail spectacularly by taking risks that don't pay off, but those whose risks do pay off occupy the extreme top end of the status hierarchy. In most mammalian species, the sex that invests more in offspring, the female, is the choosier sex. Women, on average, have a preference for partners with high resource acquisition potential. In ancestral environments, a male's social status was a reliable proxy for his ability to provide protection and calories for a mother and her highly dependent infant. Because status is a primary mating currency for men, they are biologically incentivized to compete more intensely for hierarchical position. This is often driven by testosterone, which is linked to dominance-seeking behavior and a higher tolerance for the stress of competitive environments. The shift where women outpace men in higher education but fall behind in mid-career promotions is often termed the child penalty or the mommy track in sociological biology. There is a biological conflict between the peak years for career building, ages 25 to 35, and the peak years of female biological fertility. While social structures play a massive role, biological researchers point to the physiological changes during pregnancy and breastfeeding. The surge in oxytocin and prolactin facilitates deep bonding, which can shift a mother's utility curve, her personal prioritization, away from high-stress, 80-hour work weeks toward childcare, even if she is highly educated. Men do not undergo these physiological shifts or the physical recovery from childbirth. Consequently, they often maintain a linear career trajectory. In high-status winner-take-all markets, even a 2-year hiatus or a reduction in overtime can result in a permanent gap in hierarchical advancement compared to peers who remained linearly focused. Let's present the data reflecting current 2025-2026 trends from the World Inequality Report 2026 and the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS. At the extreme high end of the income strata, men remain significantly overrepresented. While women have made gains in the top 10%, progress at the top 1% has been much slower. Globally, women make up only 20% of the top 1% of earners. This means men hold roughly 80% of these positions. The decile trend. The higher you go, the fewer women there are. Top 10%, 33%, women, 67%, men. Top 1%, 20%, women. 80%. Men, top 0.1%. EO 10, 12%. Women, 88 to 90%. Men. The bottom of society, in terms of health, safety, and social exclusion, is overwhelmingly populated by men. This is often referred to in sociology and biology as male disposability or the glass floor. While women are more likely to be in the working poor, low-wage jobs, men are significantly more likely to fall completely out of the social fabric into life-threatening conditions. In most developed nations, men represent 65% to 75% of the homeless population. Men make up 93% of global prison population, the absolute bottom of social status. In nearly every country, women outlive men. As of 2026, the global average life expectancy is approximately 76.4 years for women and 71.2 years for men, a gap of over 5 years. Historically, men have suffered from alcohol use disorder at nearly double the rate of women. As of 2024-2025, approximately 13.5% of men versus 9.1% of women in the US met the criteria for AUD. Men are roughly 2 to 3 times more likely to have a drug use disorder. While women are more likely to be prescribed pain relievers, men make up over 70% of opiate-related overdose deaths, e.g. fentanyl, heroin. Men typically show a stronger dopamine response to stimulants and alcohol, which increases the likelihood of repeated use. Additionally, testosterone is linked to lower risk perception, meaning men are more likely to experiment with higher, more dangerous doses. While women are statistically more likely to be diagnosed with depression and to attempt suicide, men are significantly more likely to die by it. Globally, men are more than 2x as likely to die by suicide than women. In high-income countries, this ratio often jumps to 3.5x or 4x. Research indicates men tend to choose more high lethality methods, e.g., firearms, which accounts for the higher death rate despite fewer reported attempts. If the top 1% is the ceiling, these stats represent the basement of human experience. The biological explanation for this unequal distribution at the bottom involves several factors. Social support systems. Evolutionarily, females develop stronger tend and befriend stress responses mediated by oxytocin, leading to more robust social networks. When a woman hits rock bottom, she is statistically more likely to have a support network, family, shelters, friends, to catch her. Internalizing versus externalizing. When faced with failure or low status, women are biologically more prone to internalizing depression, anxiety, while men are more prone to externalizing violence, crime, or substance abuse. Externalizing behavior leads directly to the bottom through incarceration or overdose. The provider identity crisis. Because male status is so closely tied to his ability to provide, a man who loses his job or status often suffers a more profound ego collapse. This often triggers the spiral into addiction or suicide, as he perceives his biological utility to be zero. The distribution of social status is often referred to as a fat-tailed distribution. While societal focus is often on the top 1% of men who achieve exceptional success, the less discussed reality is that the bottom represents a substantial, predominantly male demographic prone to severe consequences. This includes addiction, incarceration, early death, and other outcomes stemming from the high-risk behaviors often pursued in the competition for social status. This drive for social status is biologically more pronounced in men than in women, as it significantly influences attractiveness within the sexual selection market. In conclusion, we should not mandate equality that goes against biological realms. When you step onto a plane, you don't ask about the pilot's demographic background. You ask about their flight hours, their safety record, and their ability to land in a crosswind. The same with the surgeon. You want to entrust your life to the best qualified person and not a person with specific skin color or sex. You want the absolute best person for the job because the stakes are existential. Recruiting for a sports team on any basis other than skills will not lead to success. The boardroom is no different. Entrusting a company's future and the livelihoods of its employees to anyone other than the most qualified candidate is a dereliction of fiduciary duty. When the goal shifts from finding the best to matching a demographic target, the pool of excellence is artificially narrowed. If the top 1% of talent in a specific field happens to be skewed in one direction, forcing a 50-50 split means intentionally bypassing a superior candidate to satisfy a metric. That isn't progress. It's the intentional dilution of skill. True equality is colorblind and gender neutral. By implementing representation goals, we implicitly suggest that certain groups cannot compete on a level playing field without a thumb on the scale. A system that hires based on identity rather than intellect actually undermines the achievements of high-performing minorities and women, as their peers may wonder if they were hired for their talent or to fill a vacancy in a spreadsheet. Please do not misunderstand me. There are, and have always been, many cultural hurdles and unjustified inequalities beyond biological factors. A woman climbing on the social and educational ladder is commendable, but progress is rarely a straight line without trade-offs. As women climb the social and educational ladder, they encounter a phenomenon social scientists call educational hypergamy. Historically, women have sought partners with equal or higher socio-economic status. However, as women become the most educated demographic, the pool of higher status men shrinks. This creates a paradox of alienation. With women outperforming men in universities, the traditional marriage market is facing a structural mismatch. Many highly educated women find fewer partners who meet their criteria for status and intellectual parity, leading to a rise in involuntary singleness or delayed partnership. The pursuit of high-status careers and the search for the ideal partner consumes the most fertile years of a woman's life. In the EU, the fertility rate has hit a historic low of 1.34, far below the replacement level of 2.1. Educated women are increasingly sensitive to subjective well-being. They are choosing to invest more resources, time, money, and emotional energy into fewer children, or choosing childlessness altogether to preserve the status and independence they worked so hard to achieve. The very education that liberated women from domestic dependence has created a new kind of isolation. The isolation of the high achiever in a world where the social scripts for partnership haven't yet caught up to the reality of female success. While the conversation often focuses on women leaning in, many men feel they are being left out. This is not merely a matter of bruised egos. It is a structural collapse of the traditional social contract that has governed partnership for generations. In the United States and the EU, the data reveals a growing demographic of men who are increasingly disconnected from the core milestones of adulthood: steady employment, home ownership, and partnership. In the US, roughly 30% of men under the age of 30 report having had no sexual partners in the last year, a number that has tripled in the last decade. For every 100 women who graduate from university, there are now only 75 men. This degree gap creates a massive barrier in a world where educational background is a primary filter for dating apps and social circles. As women become more sensitive to well-being and professional status, men who struggle to find their footing in the modern economy find themselves below the status floor. They are increasingly viewed as unmarriageable in a market that prioritizes high-earning potential and emotional intelligence. This disconnect leads to a profound sense of alienation and frustration. When the traditional path to a partner, working hard and providing, no longer guarantees a seat at the table, the result is a breakdown in male social motivation. A growing number of men are opting out of the status game entirely. If they feel the odds of finding a partner are stacked against them, many retreat into digital escapes, gaming, pornography, and online subcultures, further eroding their social skills and real-world appeal. This frustration often curdles into resentment. Men see the progress of women not as a shared victory, but as a zero-sum game that has left them behind. This is the breeding ground for manosphere ideologies that offer a sense of belonging at the cost of further polarizing the genders. Traditionally, the role of husband or father provided a primary source of meaning for men. As these roles become harder to attain or are seen as less essential, many men struggle with a crisis of purpose, leading to higher rates of depression and deaths of despair. We cannot and should not turn back the clock. The solution is not less education for women, but a fundamental evolution in how we view status, partnership, and support. We must ask ourselves, how do we build a society where a woman doesn't have to choose between her intellectual peak and her biological window? How do we reshape the status narrative so that it doesn't leave half of our most talented population feeling alienated at the top? True progress is not just the right to climb the mountain. It is ensuring that when you reach the summit, you don't find yourself standing there alone.